We're gonna be painting with tempera cakes today. And these paints are different than watercolors because with watercolors, you add water and the paint is kind of see-through. Tempera paints, you do still add water to them to mix up the paint, but you're gonna get a much thicker, brighter color that isn't see-through. So these tempera paints haven't been used yet for a while, and they're very dry. So I'm taking my brush and I'm dipping it into the water, and I'm not scraping it on the edge. I'm just getting that water straight from my brush and then letting it go onto the paint because I need some water there to mix up and turn into paint. Now let me show you, if all I did was add the water to the tempera cakes, but I didn't mix it up, I would get a pretty light color like that. It's gonna look more like watercolors, right? So if you're getting see-through colors like that, that means you need to mix up your paint more. So to kind of wake up the paint, I'm really mixing it so that the paint, the color of the dry paint, can mix into the water and become brighter. Once I've mixed it really well, I am ready to get that paint on my paintbrush and paint on the paper. So you can see how much brighter that color is and how much thicker it is. So if your paint was kind of light at first, just mix it up some more and then you can paint over it and make it bright again. And you're gonna eventually run out of water in that paint color, so you just need to add more water. If your paint is dry, you're not gonna be able to mix any paint up. You're gonna have to add water to it. When you're painting, if you want to paint inside the lines, you can just line up the edge of your brush with your Sharpie lines, and that's gonna be an easy way to kind of paint inside of a shape or a certain space. And whenever I run out of paint on my brush, I just dip it back into the paint tray and I can get more paint. So I want you to watch this edge of my paintbrush right here. I'm gonna line it up with that edge of the Sharpie right there, and I'm just gonna pull it. I'm pulling it in one direction, like that. So when you're coloring with markers and you want to stay inside of your lines, you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. With paint, you are lining up an edge of your paintbrush next to a line that you've drawn, and you're just going to pull it in one direction, and that'll get your paint right inside of the line. So if I wanted to switch colors, let's say I wanted to move to green, I would not put my brush directly into the green. I would wash my brush out really well. And then the same thing I did before. I'm gonna add a lot of water to it. I'm getting a nice amount of water added there. And then I'm gonna mix, mix, mix until I get some green paint. So I've got some green paint on my brush, and then I can paint inside another space or another shape. And something that's really fun to do with tempera paint is to experiment with mixing colors together. And you're not gonna mix them together in the paint tray. We wanna keep the colors separate in the paint tray. So if I wanted to mix blue and green together, I could start off by putting some green onto my paper, and then I would need to rinse my brush out really well. I can move over and get some blue. I'm just gonna, and this blue might look like it's running out, but there's actually a lot of paint around the outside. So the water might collect at the bottom like that, where there's no paint, and I'm just gonna move that water up and mix it on the side so I can get as much of that paint onto my brush. And then once I have some blue paint on my brush, I can take that blue paint that I just created and I can add it to the green. And it can mix together and it makes like a blue-green color. Now, if I ran out of blue paint and I needed more blue paint to mix, like maybe there's not enough blue on that arm or something, I can't just put my brush directly back into the blue because now I've got some green on there too. So I would need to rinse my brush again, scrape it on the side, and then I can get some more blue and add that blue paint to the green that's already on my paper. So you can come up with a lot of really interesting colors by mixing them together on your paper. I want to show you what to do if you ever accidentally mix up the colors on your paint tray. There's an easy way to fix that. What you're gonna need is a clean brush and a fresh, clean cup of water, okay? So I'm gonna make sure my brush is clean. I'm gonna get some water on my brush, and then I'm gonna put it onto the part of the paint that's mixed up. And if the paint is dry, I might need to scrub it a little bit to get it off. And so now that brown color that mixed in is up. It's been taken off of the yellow. I need to scrape off the brown part and rinse it. So you might have to go back a few times to kind of take whatever paint you were able to scrape off. You might have to go back, wipe it, rinse it, scrape it, wipe it, rinse it, scrape it, until you have the color back that you needed. So if you forget to wash out your brush in between colors and you accidentally put one color in another one, please take care of our art supplies, get a fresh cup of water, and just clean up the part where you accidentally mix them together. You can also use the tempera paints to paint in the background. You probably want to let the color that you already did dry a little bit. So the tempera paints dry pretty fast. So like I wouldn't paint the background next to the wet part of my purple person, but I could do it right here as dry. So I could go ahead and paint that part. And I'm gonna do the same thing where I line up the edge of my brush with the edge of the thing that I'm painting, and then I can just kind of fill it in like that. And you could paint the whole background, just one color. You could switch to another color and have the background be different colors. It is totally up to you how you want to fill in the white spaces of your artwork. I hope you have fun painting with our tempera cakes.